All right, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about our trip to Hawaii. I got to do a few things, go for some hikes, obviously go to the beach, go to a few bars, luau's. We got to try out the GoPro Hero 7. I was pretty excited. As soon as I landed, I ran right to Best Buy. I had it pre-ordered. It came out September 30th. And just overall, I have some feedback on that device. I also want to talk about my time here, some things we've done. Just got my fancy hat on. And some things we've seen. Really been a fun adventure, and let's dive in. All right, so starting with the pillbox hike, I'll show you some footage of that now. Went there yesterday. I was able to bring out the drone for a little bit, so we'll see some of that. Overall, it was a pretty fun hike. It was decently slippery at the beginning, especially with all the camera gear I had. It was a lot of fun, but it was also a little challenging. I only had one hand free at any given time. I had my backpack on, weighing me down a little bit as well. It was a really good workout. Went around 7:30 in the morning. I'd advise, try to get there before it gets too hot. The views, though, are amazing. Check out my Flickr if you want to see some of the images I posted from there. In case you were wondering, that is where we're going. Really great views of the ocean. You can see some of the towns as well as distant islands. Right now, let's take a look at some of the drone footage we got. One thing to be aware of with that is there's many paths to go on. So I don't want to say we got lost. Yeah, so we might have got lost. I think we're trying to get back out though. But I'll show you this footage here where we actually got, I'd say, off the normal trail, ended up in some backwoods a little bit. There's not one very clear trail to follow the entire time. You really can go and see a bunch of different ways, different paths. They all lead to the same end result and have very similar views, but just something to be aware of as you're heading up and down. Had a nice little drone break back there. You can tell by the amount of sweat on my face. It's a pretty damn good workout. Having a good time. It's only 8:30, so it's amazing to see how hot it is right now. A little bit tougher getting down than getting up. Overall, though, great hike, great views, really good time. Just took a fantastic nap after this afternoon. About to head to a luau. Should be a lot of fun. Gonna have a little pre-game drink here. Has some rum in the fridge. Figure I should finish that off before we go out. It's gonna be a good time. See you at the luau.
Magnificent marine life. So again, folks, welcome to the Diamond Head Luau.
We got a beautiful view. We got Mai Tais. Beautiful ocean. It's gonna be a good night. Let's talk about the luau that we did last night. It was pretty fun. I think it was a little pricey on my perspective, considering we didn't get to see a full pig. That's the one thing I really wanted to see, was a full pig, as well as a lot of fire dancing. It was pretty good, maybe about an hour overall with the dancing, 3 hours end to end. One cool thing there is that we got to go to the aquarium. So I'm going to show you some footage now of that experience. We saw some seahorses, we saw some sea dragons. The jellyfish were probably the coolest part in my opinion. I also got a cool headband, which you'll see in some of the footage as well. We got to see a nice sunset, so that was right behind us during the whole event. They actually opened the gates for us and let us go out, so you can see some shots of that. And then we also got a lot of footage of the entire luau. You'll notice I got the GoPro time-lapse rolling right now. So that's actually, if you want to see a luau in a very short amount of time. I'm sorry about the view. Initially, there was no one sitting in front of us, and then people ended up sitting down. I'm hoping next time maybe I'll just squeeze up there and ask for forgiveness instead of permission. But you get to see the overall view of it, as well as some great shots. I tried to get some long exposure with the fire dancing, so you can see some cool images of that. I was pretty stunned. There was a 13-year-old kid that came out and actually did fire dancing. I guess he's world famous. It was pretty interesting to see the guys dancing the entire time, pretty old in age, and then all of a sudden this 13-year-old comes out and really just wiped the floor with them. So that was a fun experience overall. I think if I did it again, I'd probably try a different luau than the one specifically I did last night, though. All right, let's talk about the GoPro Hero 7 Black. So first time using it, again, I ripped stuff out of the box. I don't read the instructions. I gotta say the interface is pretty intuitive. It was easy to figure out. Overall, some of the pros, it's got great stabilization. You do have to use it at some specific resolutions and frame rates to achieve the hypersmooth stabilization, but I found that if you're doing a high enough frame rate anyway, it shouldn't be affected too much. That also aids towards the fact that it does give you a lot of options, whether you want to choose very high frame rate, lower resolution, or something about 2.7K, maybe 60p, so that way you can smooth it out later, or even do a little bit of slow motion, maybe a 2 or a 3x slow motion effect after that. It does give you many filming options, so it's got time lapse. The time lapse is very flexible. I found this very useful. You'll see all the time lapses I did. This was done on our hotel rooftop. The other thing that's nice is, considering I'm normally carrying around this Sony A7RIII, which relative for a professional camera is compact, the lenses are pretty big, and when you compare it to the size of a GoPro, it's really not a comparison. You can throw one in your pocket, the other's something you're lugging around. You may need actually a hand strap for, or a neck strap. So when you think of the size and portability, again, the best camera you have is the one that's with you. It's very convenient in that sense. On the downside, I did find the battery life to be unimpressive. This could be standard for GoPro. This is my real first instance using a GoPro. I finally got on board once I saw the specs of the Hero 7 Black. So if you're looking to film video, you're gonna squeeze through the battery pretty quick. I did buy an extra battery. They're only 20 bucks to GoPro's credit, so they're pretty affordable if you do need extra batteries, but then it is another thing to carry around. If you're going in the water, the batteries themselves are not waterproof, so that's something to be aware of as well. Charging speed, considering how quickly the battery drains, I didn't find it to be the fastest. I'm using a MacBook Pro laptop charger to charge it, so it should be giving it plenty of amperage. I don't know why it's not charging that quick. I'd say maybe an hour, hour and a half before it's fully charged. But with how quickly it depletes, I was hoping it would charge fast as well. So it's not bad, but it is a little prohibitive. Just be aware of that with the battery life. The other things I had issues with, being in the water here, ooh, that sun is hot today. One thing I've learned shooting on the GoPro in the water, the screen reacts almost like any other cell phone screen you could imagine. It's not the best when you try to touch it and do things. It will kind of have a mind of its own. It keeps switching into photo mode even though I'm trying to shoot video. While I'm talking about the GoPro having a mind of its own, I think it got hit by a wave and cut off the last recording. So you'll see a good example of that as you're trying to shoot. May hit the water, may screw up your shot. Other than that, been pretty good though. It's a touchscreen LCD. It's capacitive. It's pretty similar to a phone experience in the water. You're gonna get mishits, so if water hits it, it's gonna press things on its own. You're also gonna have issues trying to press some of the keys. If you wipe it, it works pretty well, but it's not perfect. I wish GoPro would have done something like put manual buttons, maybe a joystick, so when you are in the water or it is wet, you can still navigate and control the screens. So again, something to be aware of. I realize these things are rugged, compact. There's a lot of pros to it, but they haven't quite figured out the water and underwater solution for this, at least if you want to use the body by itself out of the box. Overall, I love the GoPro. I'm sure I'll be using it a lot more, so expect to see a lot more GoPro footage in the future. Something I want to explore, the time-lapse features. I like having both my Sony and the GoPro together. It lets me use them both in conjunction with one another, get some B-roll on the GoPro, do a time-lapse while I can take photos with the Sony. That was one of the problems I had initially when I started vlogging, especially on hikes, is that I wanted to get video and take photos. It's tough to do that with one device. I don't want to carry two full mirrorless cameras. So a good compromise here that I found is to carry the GoPro, do some video with that, and then have the Sony for pictures. See that little tiny island out there? We're about to go for a little adventure and stand up paddleboard all the way out there. Bye, island. Gonna rest our legs for a bit. Pretty cool spot. See those islands just a little bit closer there? We're about 1.10 miles, which according to the guides was halfway, but I think we're a little more than halfway. Looking to the right, so the very top up there, if you remember the hike we did the other day, that's actually where we hiked up to, which is pretty cool. And then last but not least, way off to the right, so way over there, you actually can't see it, is the beach we started at today. So about halfway, which means I'm actually a quarter of the way for the whole paddleboard today, but pretty cool. Getting closer. Cue dramatic theme music.